Hi there, today I'm going to show you how to make this really cute card using scraps of designer series paper to give you a quilted look. So this card is using the Gingham Garden designer series paper, and all of these little pieces here were punched with the hexagon punch, and it was glued onto a scrap piece of cardstock, and then it was run through the Petals of Plenty embossing folder, so you can see a little bit of the texture there. You're going to start with a piece of Whisper White cardstock. It measures 4 1/4 by 4 inches. You're going to use your grid paper, find the zero line at the top, or the zero mark at the top, and then you're going to place your paper where it goes a little bit past the 2 on this side and a little bit past the 2 on this side, and then mark where your center is. This is going to help you when you start laying the pieces. I've already covered this cardstock with adhesive, so these are all my different pieces of designer series paper. I think there's 18 hexagons here, and I actually think I'm going to need 19. So you need to lay the first piece at the very top, and it's very important to get that one perfectly straight so the other ones aren't crooked. So that little line there that we drew, which is in the center, we're going to place that in the center of the top of this hexagon. So I'm just going to lay this down right to the edge. And that's my starter tile. I'll call these tiles for now. And I like to start from the top and go down and then work my way out to the sides. So I think I will use this one next. And again, I'm just going to place it right up to the very, very edge and set that down. And we're just going to work our way across here. Okay, so I've got most of this covered. This is the one that I started with and went down, and then I have these two little pieces that are still exposed. So I think when I turn this over and cut off these little extra pieces, I'm going to end up being okay. So we're just going to turn this over and cut off anything that's sticking out past the ends. And I'm just going right up against the Whisper White cardstock. Now you can see I have just a tiny little bit of the Whisper White cardstock exposed here, and I don't really want to put just a little sliver there because it's probably going to come off, so I think I'm going to trim it. This is the 4 1/4 inch side, so if I just cut a little sliver off, instead of it being 4 inches wide, it's just going to be a little sliver less. So I'm just going to give it a little teensy trim here. There we go. So that'll just take care of that. So now I just have these little places to fill in, and most likely I can do that with my scraps that are left over. So I'm just going to take this one here and fill that in, and then I need a little something here. And again, don't forget to turn over your paper. I actually like this one right here because it has a little bit of that flower right there in the corner. Okay, so obviously we're going to turn this over and trim that again. This looks great just the way that it is, but I think it would look better with a little bit of texture. So I'm going to emboss it with the Big Shot and Petals of Plenty embossing folder. Okay, so I've run it through the Big Shot with the Petals of Plenty embossing folder, and you can see how it adds that nice little bit of texture all the way around. So this is the white organza ribbon, and this is going to go, the long side is 4 1/4, so I'm going to tie the ribbon on the short side. Okay, so I just make an X. The one that's on top goes underneath. I don't mind that this moves around. My middle finger holds the middle of the ribbon. I'm going to pull this towards me so it doesn't get tangled up. I'm going to switch middle fingers here. Make that same X that I did at the very beginning, and whatever's on top goes underneath. And then we're just going to pull this. We're going to try to pull as much as we can with our right hand, and then we're going to finish pulling with the left. And just do a little bit of fussing when you're done. And then we're going to trim that. Now because we've gone all the way around the card, it's easy for us to scoot it if we want to move it in a certain position. We'll work on the trim pieces for the top and the bottom. We're going to use the scallop trim border punch. I want my punched edge to be the same on each end. So do you see these little let's see if I can tilt this just right. Okay, do you see the big scallop like that, and then see the little bumpy thing in between the scallops? I'm going to line up the cardstock in the middle of those bumpy things between the scallops. So see right here, there's a scallop, right? So I'm going to shoot to line up the end of the paper for that little bumpy thing right there. So when I place it in, I just push it all the way down. So it's in the middle of a bumpy thing, which is, you know, in between these scallops here. And if you look on this side, it's also in the middle of a bumpy thing. And then you can just press down to punch it. And when you scoot it along, you're going to use this part here to line up this decorative edge. And see this straight edge here? You want that to be hitting this little lip that's inside the punch. So if you can line it up like that and see the edge of the paper, you need to go in one more scallop. So we're just going to scoot that in. And I like to hold it with one finger and then punch with the other hand. And see how you have a closed end right there? So we'll repeat it on this side. So we're going to line up these scallops. See how they line up? If you can see the edge of the paper, you need to go in one scallop. So we're just going to slide that in. And again, I like to hold this with one finger and then just punch. So now you have a closed end and it's even. So we're just going to repeat that for this other one. Okay, now that these little decorative pieces have already been punched, we're just going to put one under the top and one under the bottom. So just add some adhesive along the top and also along the bottom. Now this is not a square, so this is 4 1/4 by 4. So you want to make sure that you're adding along the 4 1/4 inch side so it goes edge to edge on the front of your card. So I like to set this down and then set my card right up on it. So I can make sure that that's nice and straight. And then I repeat this for the other side, for the bottom. So this piece can already get glued to the front of your card. So we're just going to add adhesive along all 4 sides. So we're going to layer this. It's going to go all the way from one side to the other. And it's going to be a little closer to the top than it is to the bottom. So we're using a stamp set called Kind and Cozy. I'm going to use this plate image and also the greeting that says thinking of you. So we're going to use Island Indigo ink. We're going to just tap, tap, tap. And we're going to press firmly on Whisper White cardstock. So we have a nice, cleanly stamped image. We're going to go to Pear Pizzazz, and I'm going to tap, tap, tap on the ink pad. So I'm just looking through the acrylic block to get this in the center. And press firmly and lift up. So you have a nice, cleanly stamped image. We have a punch that will punch out very closely to the outside edge. That's our 2 1/2 inch circle punch. We're going to push this little lever up to open it. Hold this in one hand, hold your paper in the other. Slide it in. Get that nice and centered. You can squeeze it. I'm squeezing like I call it a half squeeze. So I'm not punching it, but that half squeeze will grip the paper. So you can kind of check it from different angles to make sure that you have it centered. I'm going to pop this up with dimensionals. I'm probably going to use 5 or so. With these larger pieces, I don't like to skimp on the dimensionals. Actually, I think 5 is going to be great. And the Stampin' Up! Dimensionals, the backings pull off really easy. You don't have to struggle with it. Just lift that up, toss that somewhere. So now I do want to make sure that my greeting, I guess you could have your greeting kind of offset. I want mine to be fairly even. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to line that up. And then I want to have a little heart here at the bottom. It kind of felt like it needed something there. And you know, in the first sample, I actually stamped it, but with the second one, I think I'm going to punch it out of some of that decorative paper. So I'm going to just put my heart in here, and we're going to pop that up with a little dimensional. The regular size dimensionals I think are going to be too big for that size heart. So what I'm going to do is just cut along the bottom here. And I'm just going to put the dimensional right in the center. And then set the heart right about there. I hope you enjoyed this project. For more ideas, you can find me at KeenanCreations.com.